All right, so as I said, today in class we're going to talk about the independent investigation. So we're going to start off with an introduction about what is an independent investigation, how long will it take, and then we'll talk about what will you learn during the process, and then also how you'll be supported. So that way you don't have this overwhelming feeling of anxiety and stress. And even if you do, we've talked about the strategies of, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, what should you do? So the meditation, the, emailing or calling me, go for a walk, step away, because we never want you to get to the point where you feel just like it's too much, okay? So we're going to talk about the supports that you have in place to make sure that you find this to be a fun and interesting and enjoyable experience rather than a negative one. All right, so what I'm going to do is, as I said, talk about what is an independent investigation. So has anyone here heard of independent investigations before?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so last year we did them, yes. So can you tell us a little bit about what they are?
So like we're investigating, like we're like finding out answers on our own to one question, and then we do some like facts. Like last year it was like the main question was, is there electricity in space? But we made the question sound more interesting, so like more people will come. It's not just like, is there electricity in space?
Yeah, and so we added in the analyzing, evaluating, creating to that too, right?
Yeah.
So our friend here, he told you how you research a topic, a problem. So we call that a problem statement.
Wait a minute.
So there is your problem statement, which is your overarching big idea. This is your big whale question. Think of a whale and how big it is. That is your question. It should be able to extend for up to 3 to 4 months. So how long will this take? It's going to take you 4 months to complete this project. Yes, I said 4 months.
Oh, that's so long.
So, with that, you need to pick a question that is big enough that it has enough areas that you can research. And that means that you should be able to have different topics within that big whale question, which we call fish questions. So, fish are smaller than whales, so they're your little questions. And these little questions are going to support the big question and help you answer that big question. Now, we'll do a whole different lesson on big questions versus little questions, or whale, fish questions. But that's what you're going to start with, is you're going to pick a topic that you find really interesting, because if it's not interesting to you, do you think you're going to get bored with it within the next few months?
Yes.
Yeah. So today we're going to focus on finding things that interest you, so areas that you want to investigate for a long period of time. And then once you pick your topic, we'll come up with your problem statement, so your big overarching question. And that question is going to involve 3 things. So we talk about the 12 thinking behaviors in class. So, decreasing impulsivity, problem solving, listening to others with empathy. So now we're going to move to the other piece that we focus on, which if you look on the wall, you can see we have the analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Those are what we call the higher order thinking skills, or HOTS. So we've had these in our lessons since the beginning of the year, but we haven't necessarily focused on them 100%. So this is the time that we're really going to look at them. So what does it mean to analyze something? What does it mean to pick a topic and analyze it? Yes?
It means to like ask questions about it, like, does it do this and does it do that, and like compare it to other stuff.
Yeah, so you're going to look at it and ask questions. So you're going to say, you might compare it to and contrast it to another topic. So you might look at, polar bears versus grizzly bears, and look at how they're similar and how they're different. What else would you do with analyzing? What else does it mean to analyze? Yeah?
About that topic.
Yeah, you make inferences about the topic. So after you analyze it, you look into it a little bit more, you can start evaluating it. What does it mean to evaluate? When you evaluate something, what does it mean?
To like judge.
Yeah, you're going to judge it. So what are you going to judge it with? So you might look at it towards your topic. So with your topic, what might you judge it with?
What's the other, like, topic that you had?
So you can compare, when you compare and contrast, you can evaluate the differences if you're trying to determine something. So we use criteria, is what we call it. So criteria is kind of things that you're going to judge it by. So if you're looking and comparing and contrasting a grizzly bear and a polar bear, and you want to know which one is stronger, what characteristics would you look for in a bear that would make him strong? Muscles, good. What else? If he has big muscles versus really weak ones, right? What else would you do? What else would say if he's strong? Michael?
If you're tall?
If he's taller. So if you have a taller, bigger, muscular bear compared to a shorter, scrawnier one, you might be able to judge whether it is stronger or not. So you're going to evaluate it. And so you can consider your criteria and say, okay, well, this bear weighs 300 pounds versus Cub, which weighs about 100. All right? So after you analyze and evaluate, so that's the beginning of your problem statement. You would say, in what ways might I compare and contrast, a grizzly bear and a polar bear to determine which one is stronger? And then the last piece was creating. This is something where it's really fun because you get to create something that is original, that you make, that no one else has thought of. You get to invent and become inventors. All right? So you're going to take the knowledge that you've learned and create something completely new. So you might be going, well, how do you create something that's completely new based off of grizzly bears and, polar bears? So I'm going to show you right now. So I have pulled up some projects from previous years, and let's look here. So this is a project done by a student, and he looked at Alcatraz. So Alcatraz is a prison that is highly secure, and it is off the coast of California. So his problem statement was, in what ways might I analyze and evaluate the potential of Alcatraz as a penitentiary to determine whether it would be beneficial to reopen Alcatraz or not? So right now it is closed, and people aren't living there. So he wanted to know, well, would it make sense if I reopened it? Would it be beneficial to the city of California, or the state of California? Would it be helpful to our society? So then he moved into finding facts. So these are all the facts that he found. All right, he organized them into different spots. So you have Alcatraz closure, the goal of Alcatraz, security advances at the time and thinking ahead, and then the accommodations, and then he also went into the famous figures that were contained in Alcatraz. So, let's move to, so here are some pictures, and then it goes into the people. So here is Al Capone, and these are some of the other guys he studied. So can you see it's a lot of information that you'll be researching over the next 4 months? Because he went into just facts about, the closure, the goal of Alcatraz, the security, the accommodations, the famous people. And then he researched each of the famous people that lived there, or, had to go there. And then, after that, he did pros and cons. So this is a chart that he created. This is that creative piece. So he did the pros and cons. So he analyzed the information he obtained, and he decided what would be a pro and what would be a con for opening it. Now, do you think these were just easily laid out there in his research to just say, hey, this is something that would be a good idea to reopen Alcatraz? Or do you think he had to kind of make those inferences and decide on his own? Yeah, he had to decide on his own. So then he came up with his final decision, or his answer to his problem. And so this helped him to kind of round it all out. And you can see it's very well thought out. He says, I believe that we should not reopen Alcatraz as a penitentiary, or at least not the first Alcatraz. And then he goes into the reasons of why. So he has the evidence to support it. Because with this independent investigations, you're going to do all this research, and you're going to have that problem statement that you're trying to solve. So with all that information you gather, you need to come up with an answer to answer your question and then have evidence to support it. So just like writing, when you write an essay, you have your ideas and you need evidence to support it if you're going to try to persuade someone one way or the other. All right, now let's pull up another presentation. Now, there are different types of projects, too. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So you don't have to do a PowerPoint presentation. This is just one of the many ways you can show your information and what you've learned and your evidence. All right? So this is a baseball version. So in what ways might it compare and contrast the different styles of pitching to determine which baseball pitches are thrown the most and why? So then on the bottom, he shows you and tells you in each section what you're going to see. So he's going to identify the common pitches and their movement and show the pitchers different hand grips on the baseball. He's going to show the proper pitching motion, and he's going to teach some pitching facts with trivia, which you don't have to do. That's just a fun area he wanted to add, and then share some key learnings. That's where he's going to answer the problem. So he talked here about the problem statement and the solution. So, oh no, this is just the solution. So he says pitchers need to have these three qualities on their pitches to confuse the batter. So changing speed, half motion, and accuracy. So he taught, and then on the bottom he talks about the problem statement itself. So this in itself is telling you, so here's what I looked at, and this is what I learned and found out. And then he supports it with a chart here with the different common pitches. He shows you the movement of the pitches. He shows you the grips for the different balls, or throws with the balls. Then he talks about, sidearm, you're not supposed to throw because it injures you. These are how to do the motion and the steps. And then it's continued. Then he just had some fun trivia he wanted to add, which you're more than welcome to do. And then what he learned from the project. So there's a pattern I'm hoping you see, that you come up with. You have your problem statements, analyzing and evaluating. You gather all this information. You kind of get this information down on paper in some format, and then you create something new. So they created the PowerPoint, which is not something new. But as you saw in the Alcatraz, he had the pros and the cons. And then the other student had a different, end product is what we call it. So I'm going to look at a few more for you. So this is another student, and he looked at comparing and contrasting drinks and their effects on teeth to determine which drink is the worst for your teeth. And he did an experiment. So you can make charts, you can make experiments, and the experiment, he took his teeth, like his baby teeth, and he put them into different glasses with those beverages and looked at the effect over time of what happened to the teeth, which is kind of interesting and gross at the same time. So here are the drinks that he used, if it works. There we go. So these are the ones that he looked at, and he had ones that were caffeinated, ones that were not. He had some soda, the sports drinks, and he even had water. And so then he looked at his prediction, and those are his predictions for each of the drinks. Then his observations for each one, and then the experiment and what he can conclude after it. He even took it a step further and created a survey for people. So he looked at, let's see if I can get the question up here. He says, put a check next to your age and under your favorite drink, so then he could figure out what drinks do most children, drink, and so that way he could inform them if they were making good decisions or ones that they needed to maybe, change. And then he also created a story. So he created a storybook, like a fun fictional story, but it had some factual information as well. So you can read this at another time. I'm just trying to go through these quickly so you can see the different projects. And then this is another student who analyzed the use of bartering and currency. So bartering is if I tried to trade with you. So if I said, I really like your headband, I'll trade you, my stapler for your headband. And you'd barter back and forth to go, well, I don't really need a stapler, but I like your tape, so I'll take your tape instead. And you go back and forth and you trade goods. Currency is what we use now, where I would trade you money. So I go, well, I'll pay you $5 for that, hairband or, hair tie or whatever. So that's what she was looking into, is which one is going to be more efficient when creating a business. So would it be better for her to trade her stuff to get what she needs for the business, or would it be better for her just to give away her money? And so she then created this chart, which has the pros and cons again, and she totaled the numbers of pros and cons on the side so that she can make her conclusion. Yes?
What's pros and cons?
So, that's a great question. So pros are things that are positive. So those are positive things about bartering, or positive things about the currency, and cons are negative things, so things that aren't great about it. So things that you would want to change. Yeah, so like a con for bartering, it's difficult to barter with people far away from you. So it would be really hard, for someone in California for us to try to go back and forth and get them. Now with technology, it's probably a little easier because you can send an email and ship it over, and you could find ways. But I think she was looking more at it in general. Okay, here is another one. So this is another chart. This is a student who compared 3 top snowboarders to determine which one was the best. And so he made a chart of, or he had his criteria on the left, so he was looking at his air, the speed, the style, the freestyle, freeride, extreme. So he knew all of those criteria and how those would all make, or show if the snowboarder was better or not. But then on the bottom, he also made a little kind of side note, as though although some of these Craig Kelly stats are actually better than Shaun White's, Shaun White's Olympic and X Games medal record is unsurpassed by any other snowboarder. So that would say, the data might be not showing as much as he would like. Okay, last one. So this one is a survey that a student created on his own, or 2 students, because they were looking at the effects of holding your gas in. So your burps and your flats, which is also known as a toot, or when you pass gas from the backside. And so they were trying to get information out to people, and they used a survey to see what they knew, and then they could provide the information later on. And so they wanted to see, well, is it more beneficial to hold it in, or are there side effects when you hold it in? And so they were trying to, look at that. And they found these cool, absorbers for the product. So this is just their survey. All right, so as you can see, there are lots of different things you can do with this project, but I want you to fully understand. We start with the problem statement, and that you have analyzing, evaluating, and then creating at the end. You can create anything you want that's original to your topic, and you get to invent it. So you can do the charts, you can do a story, you can do an experiment, you can do anything that you'd like. I've had students do interviews. I love interviews because you get to interview experts. You can create anything you want. I've had people create their own model cars. They took 2 different types of cars, took the pros of both, and then created an even better model. I've had students look at Victorian homes versus modern homes and create the epic, original home, and they designed the whole home by themselves because they loved HGTV. So you could do anything. Even our friend here, he did Is There Lightning in Space, and analyzed the theories to determine which theory he believed, and then created his own. And then I've had, as I said, there are lots of ideas. I'll give you a sheet of them. But as we go through, so we talked about how long it would take, and then what will you learn during this process. So the curriculum outline that you received in the beginning of the year will have everything that we're going to cover. So you pull that out right now. Your curriculum outline from your worksheet, or your folder. That's why I have to keep it in it. So each week you know what we'll be talking about. So this week we're doing the overview of the independent investigation and choosing a topic with some pre-search is what we're going to call it. So a light bit of research. Then you're going to move into choosing a problem statement and those little questions. Remember we said big question is the whale, little questions is the fish. So those little questions you have to answer in order to answer your big question. Then we're going to go on to how to research online using keywords and phrases, because when you start researching online, 1, I want you to be safe, and 2, I want you to get the information you need as fast as possible. So we'll talk about, online safety, and I'll give you some sites that you can use that are very kid-friendly. And then 2, I want you to be able to look at the information as quick as possible. So we'll talk about what keywords to put in there to find the information fastest. Then we'll talk about reliable resources, and this is really important because you'll see, I'm going to pull up websites, and they're going to be talking about creatures that don't even exist, but they're going to have pictures of them, and they're going to try to convince you that they're real. And so you're going to have to be detective to determine which one's reliable and which one is fake, okay? And then we'll plan for independent investigation resources. So we'll talk about citing. So as you research, you're going to have to keep track of all the websites you use. I'll show you in this last one, or one of the PowerPoints, you can even see each time he puts a picture, he has his source right here. All right, so you need to make sure that you put your sources in so you're not plagiarizing, which we'll talk about that. And then highlighting resources, we'll talk about highlighting. I've had students, I tell them not to highlight every single word, so they highlight every other word. And so we'll talk about what should you highlight, not every other word and not the whole entire page. We'll go into that. Note-taking, and then we'll talk about experimenting, surveying, interviewing, and then I'll check in with you each week during conferences, but I'll also have a midpoint rubric that you'll be given, and you'll kind of look through it and say, I've done all these things, and so you're good to keep going, or, uh-oh, we're halfway through the project, and I still don't even know what my topic is, okay? So we'll try to prevent any of that from happening. Then we'll talk about your display boards, because at the end of this, what we do is we have this thing called iNight. So you might have heard of it. It's kind of like a science fair where everyone puts their boards up, and they get to showcase what they've learned and what they've, discovered. So you get a trifold board, so it's one of those boards that has the front that's like a poster board with the 2 flaps. And then after that, and then people walk around and you talk about it with people that come by. So we'll talk about the display boards and my expectations for those. And then presentation skills, you'll be presenting in class here. We'll invite your parents in, or any family member that you would like to come in, as long as they don't have to go to school. If they're in school, they can't come. But if you have younger siblings or older siblings that are in college or graduated, or any grandmas, grandparents, you can bring them if you'd like, and you present. And then after that, you have your presentations and iMate. So that's kind of big overview of iNight. How you feeling? Good. You a little excited about it? Well, we're going to do our interest surveys next in Wonder Clouds, and I think that will get you interested in studying a topic. Did you have a question?
No, I don't know.
Not anymore. I answered it. Oh, good.
What are Wonder Clouds?
Wonder Clouds. So we'll talk about that next. I'm going to talk about quickly how you're going to be supported, and then I'm going to turn the video off, and then we'll get to the Wonder Clouds and the actual activities, and so I can stop talking. All right. So how you're going to be supported, all of you have my website link, hopefully. So if you go to Miss Carrie's stage page, you can even just type it right into Google and it pops up. And so this is the home page, and if you look on the left, you can see there's an actual tab for independent investigations. So here it says we'll begin working on the independent investigations at the end of November, which is this week. And then I want you to look forward to a video describing what the investigation is. So this video we're taking right now, we're going to put up here, and so that way you can refer back to this and remind yourself if I didn't answer a question or you forgot what I said. Any worksheet I send home or any assignment I send home, I will put a link up under here. So if you look at this like peachy colored section right here, all of these will have, or any material I use in class will be uploaded here today. So the Wonder Clouds will be uploaded, as well as your interest survey if you wanted to do another one, if you're starting to find that you don't like your topic. Okay, so the website's a great place to go. You also have my email, and I have it linked to my phone, so on my personal cell phone. So anytime I get an email, as long as my son does not swipe it and delete it by accident on my front screen, I will look at it and read it. So if you're having an issue, you can even leave your phone number, and I will give you a call right away. So that way, if you have a question, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, anxious, I will give you a call and we'll figure it out, okay? And if I don't respond to you, walk away from the project. It is okay if you come into class and go, I just was so confused, overwhelmed, I didn't know what to do, and so I just stopped. That's okay. We have 4 weeks to complete the 4 months to complete the project. So if you skip one, we'll be able to catch up. Now, if you don't do your work 1 week, you're going to have to play catch up the next. So just make sure you're keeping on top of it, because it is easy to procrastinate with this project. It's easy to say, well, I have 4 months, I'm good. But the problem is, it's spaced out so nicely that you don't get that rush at the end unless you procrastinate. And you can talk to some of the older students who have done this project, and they will tell you it is not fun playing catch-up. And sometimes I don't allow the students to come to iNight if their projects aren't ready. Well, if their projects aren't ready, I don't let them. But if they wait too long and it's too late, instead of stressing you out, I'll just tell you we'll do it again next year. Okay? So just stay on top of your work, and I will support you. I'll conference with you each week. You have the website, you have my email, you'll have my phone number that you can call, and you have each other. So if you're feeling like you need to ask a question to a friend, you can always just ask a friend or a sister. Yes?
So all of this stuff,
Yeah.
you'll see on the necessary.
Safe space, yep. And each week, as you can see on the curriculum map, I'm not giving it to you all right now. This is an overview, so it might feel overwhelming, but we're going to take it week by week. So each of those topics I talked about will be week by week, and each week I will then upload it onto the website. Yes?
What we just said, you're going to show us animals and they'll show you.
Yep. The reliable resources one?
And some viewing.
Yeah, so we'll do that in December, so coming up in the next few weeks. All right?
I thought we were going to do it today.
No, today we're going to do the interest survey. So I'm going to exit out of here, and then we'll move on to the next topic.